Welcome to Top Tier Underground, the podcast that brings you music and the voice of the artist that creates it. This episode we are featuring Elevated Mind from the Bay Area. His music is unique with heavy bass lines and melodic progression. This dude is a fucking maniac. Be sure to subscribe to Top Tier Underground on your favorite podcast channel. Here's your host, Eric.
All right, I'm here with Will Bauer, Elevated Mind. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. So we were just kind of talking about your personal life, but I wanted to get into music. And you've been in the scene for a long time because you and Spoken Bird used to collab, right?
Yeah, we started making music together in 2012 when we were going to college together.
And did you do music before that?
I started DJing in 2010.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of went the route of DJing first and then realizing that I had all these songs in my head and I was like, okay, maybe I can try to make a beat. And of course the first, 40 songs just came out total garbage.
Yeah.
But that's just like the normal path of any producer. And then I started like playing those songs out a little bit more. And then, so yeah, it's kind of shifted from DJing into production. And then I'll play out my productions.
That's awesome. And you started out in the Bay, right?
Yeah. Yep. I've been in the Bay pretty much my entire life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what got you interested into DJing and music and all that jazz?
So I went to my first electronic music show in 2010. I admittedly, I think it was Deadmau5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, classic, regrettable moment. But
oh man, I think most people have started on that path, except for psychopaths like McCall and stuff. Most people,
yeah.
I'm just saying, most there's not very many people that started out like McCall started out, heady as fuck because his mom, I think, was into that. Like, she. Do you know Michael's story?
Yeah. He come from like more of a hippie family.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's always been into the super like awesome underground music. He didn't start out like us normal people.
Yeah, I definitely had that like one show revelation of like, I kind of want to do what's going on here.
Right.
And
that's so cool.
After the show, actually, one of my friends was like, you should listen to this music. And like, we went to his car and he started playing some dubstep. And I was like, okay, like I like this way better.
Way better.
Yeah. So it just kind of snowballed from there, really. Started like introducing dubstep to these, like frat parties at UC Davis, and slowly everyone started to like come around. I was like, okay, this is awesome.
That's cool. What was the first dubstep track that you heard? You
I
have to remember what it was. Like
it has to. I think it was like a Caspa song.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The ones with the super classic wobbles. Like
oh yeah.
There's one like Well Ard.
Yeah.
It's like classic British dubstep.
Yeah, totally. That's cool. I was I rode the house and trance train for a long time before I got into bass music. And ironically enough, McCall's set, just because we were just talking about him, McCall's set got me into bass music.
Oh boy. I'm
not even kidding. Like I saw him, I think it was at Still Dream or something. And I was just on the right amount of psychedelics where I don't know, the beat structure I was like, oh, what the fuck am I doing with this steady rhythm shit,
Yeah. And you're like, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was actually Alex Spoken Bird. He kind of started showing me some of the more like burner music at Davis.
Okay.
And I started attending these like weekly meetings of other producers that were just starting. And we'd all just show each other our tracks. And, most of the time it was like, something we made maybe a week earlier, but wanted feedback from other people. And just by sitting in a room with like 6 other producers and playing your track to them, you already can like, you start to analyze your track in a different way because you're like, oh, actually that part really sucks.
Right.
You're like, yeah, that part's awesome right there. that really kind of like propelled our music, and like we progressed way faster than if we were just working on our own.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. I totally envy you in that way, because when I got into music, I mean, I had been DJing for years before I started writing music, but I was at Still Dream, and I specifically remember like there was like McCall's set. I saw Nico Luminous's set there, and this is in 2012, and I saw one other person. I think it was a female, but I can't remember who it was. And I like literally came back from Still Dream, or not Still Dream. What's Symbiosis. I can't. Yeah, Symbiosis is what I'm thinking of. And I come back from Symbiosis, and I downloaded Ableton and started writing music the next day. You know, like pretty much the second I got back from Symbiosis.
Yeah.
And
so, that's like the path of maybe 95% of bass music producers.
Totally.
They get back from a festival and they're like, okay, that was awesome. I got to try this out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I also played a show that weekend after Symbiosis. I went and played a show at a place in San Francisco called Fate, or F8 or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like
F8.
Yeah, and I played a show there, and I was the only house person.
Oh.
And this promoter booked me knowing that I was going to be playing house, and everybody else played bass, and it was like all original tunes, and I was playing other people's house music, and I felt really confident going into it. I was like, oh, this is going to be so sick. And then I played, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, I don't produce music, and I'm playing this boring ass, you know. It was just, I mean, I love house, like you know,
yeah,
but
I mean, the promoter kind of blew it a little bit too, on like,
yeah,
he could have given you more of a heads up, but
totally, yeah, it was. I don't even know. I had never even played a single bass track in my life, so it was definitely really weird. But so then you used to be called Lasertooth, right?
No, I used to be Dubzilla.
Dubzilla. Okay, I thought who was Lasertooth?
That's one of my buddies, Derek.
Okay, did you guys write tracks together?
Yeah, Derek was part of the Chillage people. So
okay,
one of
cool.
The people on the couch that I was talking about that would show each other tracks.
Okay, because I, for some reason, thought that was your old name. But why'd you change your name from Dubzilla to Elevated Mind?
Just because Dubzilla was chosen in like a matter of like 5 minutes.
Yeah. When did you change it?
I changed it because part of it was that Dubzilla just like felt like it was already pigeonholing the sound into dubstep, and I was making more glitch hop anyway. And then I watched this really cool TED talk on kind of like getting into a creative flow, and this is really what made me decide to choose the name Elevated Mind, because, you know, maybe at first glance I'm not trying to make the impression that it's like my mind is elevated. Yeah. Or that either, but it was like, so let me get back to the TED talk. So this lady did a really good job of explaining how you can kind of place your creative work into like a separate body, almost like, you know, she called it like a creative genius in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of allows you to separate your art from yourself in a way.
Okay.
Where if you sit down to write and it's just going terrible, you can kind of blame it on your creative geniuses just didn't show up to work that day.
So it's like the muse. Have you heard of that term, the muse?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Have you ever read The War of Art?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's. I mean, he briefly talks.
That's what he talks about, right?
Briefly, yeah. I think he only calls it the muse a few times, but that's like the concept of the muse is like there's this kind of this other. It's like channeling in a way, but it's just your. You know, I mean, I'm going to continue letting you talk and not try to interrupt you, but you know, like when you play a DJ set and the whole crowd is just getting it, and you get off and you don't even know what the fuck just happened. You know, you walk off stage and you are like, how the fuck did that happen like that? You know, I think that's like the muse or probably what you're referring to.
Yeah. It's kind of like a mix of like a flow state. Where
exactly. Yeah.
Time just doesn't even really like seem relevant.
Right.
I mostly kind of chose the name based off of like while I was producing, I would just be in a complete zone where I couldn't recognize anything else that's going on. Like no part of my life is like trying to like enter the zone. Does that make sense?
It definitely does, because I feel that same exact way with a multiplicity of little interests that I'm in, and so that, and it's only describable to artists, I feel like it is anyways.
I'm sure someone that's listening that's not an artist would be like, what the hell are you talking about?
And then we can just say, well, have you ever had sex? Good sex, because good sex takes you there.
Exactly. It's the exact same thing.
Yes. So I really do feel that way. It's like when you're just that everybody's experienced it in one way or another, but they might not have experienced it making art. So
yeah, exactly.
Or running really far. Like when you run like 20 miles or 30 miles. I don't know if you've ever done that before.
Not 20. No, I've done like 10.
Yeah. 10. There's a certain benchmark. When you hit it, your mind just is, nothing else matters. You're just focusing on your breath, and it's,
exactly. So. Yeah, it's kind of like a meditation in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to touch briefly again on that TED Talk. Was this lady also kind of explained that if you're making really good music or really good art or whatever, it's still not something that you kind of internalize. So you're not really turning into like a Kanye West where you're thinking that you're like the shit.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just like kind of a way to separate everything so that you don't get personally offended or like feel down on yourself. And you also don't like overinflate your ego.
That's beautiful. Yeah, because I mean, we all know it. I mean, there's so many people that come to mind, but people that get so involved, I've been there before with music, where you get so involved and then you're not getting what you want out of it. And you think it's because the world's working against you or something. And, and I put my soul into this and all this shit. And then all of a sudden you're destroying your career and your passion. Like you're destroying what you love about music. 'Cause allegedly you didn't get into it just to play shows and, get girls or whatever reason, you started doing it because you love the music.
Yeah,
and
I'd hope so.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people though that they get 2 years, 3 years down the road, and it was like, this is how it was for me. My thing was, I went to Still Dream and I was like, all I want to do is play this show. All I want to do is play Still Dream. And then I played it and I wasn't happy about the time slot or something. You know what I mean? I'm not literally, I was like very gracious that Carl booked me, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's a thing that we always set the bar a little higher, but it's not fair to do that with your art because you're never going to get there. And the only way to get there is to not be like what you're saying, emotionally attached to it,
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and also there's kind of like, once you get there, once you got to Still Dream, you're like, well, what now?
Yeah.
This could be better in a way, but
sure.
You have to like reevaluate your goals and things like that.
Yeah. And I don't know, I have a lot of friends in the scene that they get super emotional about it, and it's like you can just see it on their sets that they're not really happy that they're even there, and because they don't feel like maybe they didn't get the time slot or the heading or whatever that they were looking for.
Yeah. And
it's unfortunate because, and I've been there, and it actually is what made me kind of get out of music for, take the step back. It's one of the things anyways. And it was just, I wanted way too much out of it way too quick, Yeah,
I think everyone does. And they don't, I mean, it's until you're like a year or two in that you realize like, oh shit, this is a 10 to 20 year process of, hauling ass the entire time.
Yeah.
To get to somewhere that you actually think you're at least like sounding good or playing the right shows.
Yeah. And then you meet people like Michael Slump who, they're just like the coolest people. They don't really, they're not bummed about anything, and they're just happy to be there playing music. And people like that totally inspire me because it's and he's killing it, right? I mean, and it's just kind of that good balance of caring enough to continue making music, but not caring so much that you get upset because your music isn't, you know, paying you $1 million a year or whatever you want it to be. So,
or it's as good as you're setting your standards.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, with your music, I know that you said that you kind of took a break and you're getting back into it pretty heavy now. And your music has always been like, in my opinion, the perfect hybrid of gangster shit with the prettiness and it's, you know, and melody, and it's, you know, it's really awesome. So what are your plans with the future of it? Like, what are you kind of trying to write, and what demographic are you trying to be in front of, I guess?
I don't know. I guess like the demographic kind of would choose me.
Sure.
I'm kind of putting less emphasis on, you know, playing out shows and things like that, and just getting a volume of music done. I've been exploring kind of all over the place. So the last few tracks I put out have been like pretty heavy. And I think I have this weird ebb and flow where like I'll make a heavy track and then I'll make like a really pretty one and then I'll make a heavy one. And it's like, I can't make up my mind and stay in one style.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like right now.
That's okay though, right? Because Tipper does that. Yeah.
Balance right there.
Yeah. Tipper does that. And that, you know, when people say like, oh, you know, music shouldn't be so eclectic, you should have just one sound. I'm like, okay, show me an amazing artist that only focuses on just one style. And, you know, I just don't, I think that good artists they're not intimidated by other sounds or other styles, you know?
Totally. I've just kind of separated the two, where I don't usually release the non-dance floor tracks, which I'm realizing, you know, I can just put those out. But I guess there's always a thing of like, did this artist just switch everything to that style that, you know, his latest release?
Sure.
So I'm trying, at least, you know, I've avoided that for 5 or 6 years, but at a certain point you just got to like put it out there.
Yeah. Have you thought about releasing it under a different moniker?
I don't know. I feel like 3 changes in 6 years is
yeah.
It's just like, you know, a DJ name ADD.
Yeah. That's funny.
I know so many people that get that, like, oh, I've been making this totally new style and I just want to change my name again. It's like, dude, you've done it like 6 times.
Right.
Like 4 years.
Yeah. I know. I've thought about changing our name, like being Kandra's name, you know, and I just can't bring myself to do it. And it's so weird because it's not because I'm like attached to Vaporizing Dreams. It's just because I don't know. I just like it. It's really weird. But it just, for some reason I like it, you know. It's really weird. I don't know. I've thought about changing it. Like I've actually come up with way better names that I think are like easy, like more marketable or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, and the problem with Vaporizing Dreams is a huge name, so it doesn't fit on a flyer very well.
That's like a headliner name where it takes up 3/4 of the flyer.
Right. Which, I mean, hey, whatever. If that's what's going to try to get me on the headlining spot, I guess that's okay.
Like headliner or bust, that's it.
Yeah, totally. So, are you playing any shows coming up at all, or?
No. It's probably one of the first times in a while I'm just taking a little break from DJing.
Cool.
I'm really focusing on producing.
Nice.
It's kind of weird, like that I started out with mostly loving DJing more, and now I've really just shifted into like loving being in the studio. So yeah, I haven't really been like actively seeking out any shows or anything, but I kind of also think it's mostly that I want to have more new content.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of playing the same music.
Right. Yeah, I know. I always feel really weird when people ask us if we want to go play a show, because I'm like, I don't know. I'm not ready to put anything out. And, you know, so it always feels really weird. So I really haven't been taking shows. If we we've gotten a couple of bookings in Boise, that's like hometown, so we'll always do that. But I have definitely not been applying for anything for that reason. So what kind of do you use any hardware, and what kind of software do you use?
I've got a Virus TI2.
Oh, that's sweet. That's what Tipper has, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's fun. They make a lot of really weird sounds on it, so it's good for like get lost in making some crazy stuff and recording it.
I think Kill Smith has one too, or maybe he just wanted one. I don't know.
He does.
It could be that he just wanted. I thought, because him and I talked about it a while back, but I had never even heard of a Virus until he talked to me about it. But so that's cool. Do you like it?
Yeah. It's pretty complex. It's it's not as intuitive as some of the standard VSTs. Like I feel like something like Serum or like Massive, all those ones kind of, they make it a little more intuitive, whereas the Virus has all these like modulators on it and like all these crazy paths, so it's pretty easy to mess up a good sound if you're not saving along the way.
Yeah.
It's really best for just like bouncing it to audio like immediately.
Right. Yeah.
You don't even know if that's going to be any good for a song.
That's how having Amogh is too. It's just like that, it's not that you can mess it up because it's so simple, but it's really just like, okay, you have something like bounce it to audio and move the fuck on, because you can just get stuck into sound design for 10 hours and you never make anything,
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to separate those sessions actually. I'll do, one day of just making the weird sounds for like 7 hours or whatever. And then once I feel like I've kind of like amassed a new set of samples that are all mostly my own, then when I've got a day where I just have like an itch to start a new song, I'll go ahead and just like drop those in, chop it up, and then like everything's kind of ready to go already, and I don't have to focus on like tweaking the sound itself. It's like,
that's a good idea, man. That's really cool.
It works. It's a good workflow tip.
Yeah.
But it also just like it's either the sound works or it doesn't, like immediately, so you can't tinker it,
Yeah, definitely.
It just like locks you out of that mindset of like, oh, I'll just mess with this for like another hour. Next thing you know, you've made like 2 bars after like 2 hours. And,
yeah.
There goes your entire like productive day.
Definitely. That's really cool. What other kind of workflow tips do you have? Because I know that you're kind of a master with that. Pretty much everybody on Chillage is kind of like really smart about workflow. It seems like, Peter is, and Alex definitely is. And
yeah, I mean, we're pretty slow actually. It took us like a month and a half or 2 months to make a song, but
yeah, but when it comes out, it's really good. I mean, that's okay, man. Like, as long as there's people that write a track a day and it sounds like shit, so whatever.
Yeah, you gotta like find the balance of quality, and then also put out like 2 tracks a year, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, for other like workflow, just staying organized is probably one of the biggest ones. It's like cleaning your room or just doing anything like dishes, you got to do it. And the more you put it off, like the messier your work's going to be. You're going to get
mean
lost.
As far as mixing down goes, or do you mean?
Sorry. No, like organizing your samples.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like getting a folder of all your favorites.
Okay. Yep. I'm terrible at that. Every single time I've ever started a new track, I have started from pure ground zero.
I mean, that's totally fine. Like
it's not.
All the songs come out unique, which is cool. But if you do find ones that you really love and you need shortcuts with them, like you're like, I want that clap that I used in that song. Are you gonna be able to find it? I don't know. Like,
probably not. What I used to do is when I would think about stuff like that, I would have to go back and remember which song it was on, and then go all the way back through all my tracks and then find it and then copy it and paste it into the new track. Yeah, exactly. And it was just terrible, but not much has changed in that area. So
Yeah, I think another one is I've been lately trying to get, set like a phone timer, um, and have like a kind of 10 minutes per instrument in a way. So like I'll do 10 minutes of drums to start, then I'll do 10 minutes of bass, and then 10 minutes of melody, and things like that, just to get like the ideas down and force myself to get them down. And then I'll try to do maybe like 3 or 4 of those a day.
Oh,
if I'm like in the zone. And then I'll just pick the best one of those 4 and continue on that.
That's really cool.
And then maybe the next day I'll listen to the other 3 and see if like they're decent, or I'll just throw them away.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, I think that those are all. Did you go to school for music?
No.
I was just wondering because Alex did, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, he did technicultural studies, so I think
Okay.
there was like some music classes he had to take.
Okay, I was just wondering because that's seems like pro tips, like that you would learn in class or something. It's just really, really good ideas, really smart, and I've never done any of them. So
It's hard to do though. Like, you got to move on and you also need to know like, oh, I'm about to like push through and make this something like pretty solid, and you got to know that that's not the time to scrap it and
right.
move on. So it's kind of just like a balance game.
Yeah, I've been doing this thing lately where I'll work on music and then I'll just delete the entire thing because I think it sucks. I'm like, oh, whatever, fuck this, and I just delete it all.
I mean, it's refreshing if you do that too.
Yeah, Kandra's always like, what are you doing? But
yeah, or you can like piece it down and scrap it out, kind of like a used car.
Yeah,
like the tires were good on it, but the paint is ugly.
Yeah, I've done that before too. You can tell on one of our like all original mixes, there's a track on there where it sounds one way, and then when I released it, you can tell that it's like these 2 different songs in the mix, that I took this from that track and this from that track and made them into one track, and sometimes I guess you just have to do that because
I mean, I've heard some really cool songs where they do that, and if it's in the same key as the one you're writing in, you just like steal like maybe 2 bars or something, or 1 bar, and you just like plop that in as a fill somewhere.
Yeah.
In the song, and it's just like a complete like change up, and it's like, what the hell is this?
Totally.
I mean, sometimes it can work.
So what key do you like to write? Do you have a preferred key that you write in?
Yeah, I have a really bad habit. Most of my songs I write in G.
Really?
But I moved away. Now it's like E, F, but like G minor. So it's usually all minor keys. I can't write in major keys. Just like too happy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's something that I'm just now starting to kind of figure out, because I didn't really understand music theory that much until real recently. I took some piano classes and stuff. And this girl that I've been doing the piano classes with is so fucking good. She went to school in Boston for like 8 years or something, and it was just phenomenal. But she was like showing me why minor sounds so good, and it's just, it's just so whiny and it's great, but
there's a reason that like 99.9% of electronic music songs are in minor keys.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you too. Major just sounds way too happy. Yeah, happy, like a
Christmas jingle.
Yeah, definitely.
I just feel like you can get more like emotions out of minor music, and you can make a minor chord sound happy.
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
Totally.
So you kind of get like, you're not like pigeonholing the entire song just by choosing the key.
Right. Yeah. So what about like taking your track from writing to mix down process? What do you write? You write in Ableton, right?
Yeah, Ableton.
Do you mix down in Ableton?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's because a lot of people stem it out and then do that in something else like Logic, but just to keep it workflow different, you know, because a lot, I think sometimes you get stuck in this, if you're writing and then mixing down in Ableton, you'll start writing again and working on the track more, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? I thought this is done.
Yeah, totally. I don't separate it out because I have a PC. So I heard Logic is pretty good for mixing down, but I just don't have the option to use it.
Okay.
So, but for splitting it up and like stemming it out and then mixing it, I think it kind of comes down to the person's restraint. You know, like if I really am going to be mixing it down, like I'm not going to fiddle with a sound unless it's like a mix fiddle, if that makes sense. So
definitely,
you know, like you could change a reverb.
Yeah, or side chain something.
For like a creative reason, but you can also change a reverb for a mix reason.
Yeah.
So like
definitely.
doing things like that, I feel like, I've got all these like sends already going on.
Right.
So like, bouncing it down to audio, it seems like it would be kind of a little messy for me.
No, I totally agree with you, especially when you're side chaining stuff and you have a bunch of sends like what you're saying. So it's kind of, it can definitely be difficult. Do you, is there any like plugins that you like to use for mixing down and mastering, or?
Yeah. About 4 years ago, Ionic. Have you heard of Ionic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music writer, right?
Yeah. So Ian gave me a really good idea to buy a UAD card on eBay when they were selling UAD 1 cards. And this guy was getting rid of his because he didn't want to upgrade to UAD 2. And he had a bunch of like the UAD plugins on it, and he was selling it for cheap because he's like, no one can use these. They're worthless now. But you could buy a UAD 2 card and transfer those plugins over. So I got like $4,000 worth of plugins for like $700.
That's awesome.
Transfer those all over to a new card that can work.
Yeah.
And now I use those pretty much to mix down everything.
That's awesome. And don't you need hardware for UAD?
Yeah. So the UAD 2 is like it's like a PCI card. So you just stick it into your desktop. And I think they make laptop versions too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I would buy it if I hadn't had that, you know, that guy selling all those, because you kind of start with just like 4 basic ones and then you got to spend a ton of money. But I love it. Like I feel like they emulate hardware pretty well, and that's really where I think hardware shines, is in the mix down phase.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. They got some really cool like reverbs on there too that you can even get like creative. And they're pretty much like my standards now.
Yeah.
Like people talk about reverb plugins and I'll just be like, I don't even have time to explore something else. Like when you know something like the back of your hand.
Right. I know that's something that I think a lot of people do that that can decrease production is, you know, people get so stuck on all these different plugins and then all of a sudden they don't have any of them mastered, you know, or they really don't know their way around any of them, but they have like 5,000 different plugins on their computer. Yeah. But I used to write in Massive sometimes, and now I pretty much only write in Operator, but I'm really tired of it. So I think I'm going to stop writing in Operator soon, because I'm just...
You mean for like your synth patches?
Everything I do, yeah. All my synths have been in Operator for 5 or so years. Like pretty much I started writing in Massive, and I did that for like 3 months, and then I started writing in Operator, and I've done that ever since. Yeah. So
you should check out Serum.
I've heard of Serum, but Serum's another one that has so much going on with it. Yeah.
Oh man, it takes a little bit of time. Just watch some like YouTube videos or something.
Yeah.
Just watch someone else like make a sound with it.
Yeah.
And you know, pause the video and like kind of emulate it. And then be like, okay, that's why they did that.
Yeah.
But you can get pretty creative on there. And it's like usually a pretty good starting sound. And then you can add like processing through Ableton or whatever you want.
Right. Yeah, I just think that I've like kind of limited myself with operator because it's really good for blips and, you know, crunchy saw wave and stuff like that. But outside of that, it's pretty limiting, and I'm just ready to stop with it. I've just always, because I know it so well. I can like I know how to write pretty much any sound that I'm going for in Ableton. It just doesn't, or an operator, but it just doesn't sound as good as it would in another synth if I were to. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and I don't think it's. I just think it's doesn't have as much going on with it, so it's very simplistic. And
yeah. And also, if you're like using the same synth and finding that you're kind of ending up with the same sound on it, and like hitting a wall of maybe creativity, then that's usually when it maybe is good to try a new
totally,
synth or something like that.
yeah,
But you know, having 40 different synths on your
yeah,
computer, you kind of get lost in like all the options right there.
totally, yeah.
And
I
maybe,
agree.
yeah.
So, outside of music, what do you like to do?
I like to hike, be outside.
Yeah, and you told me one time that you get like a special resource because you're a biologist, right? Like you get to go into that biology only zone in San Francisco or something, right?
Well, I don't get to do that like off hours.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's still really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's only for work, right? Or
Yeah. So it's kind of like this like closed off area. I mean, I have the key to the spot and I could totally go there, but I don't want to get, you don't want to get caught and then
right.
get the key removed and you're like getting all this trouble for it. So, yeah, I mean, just other places in the Bay.
But when you say that, though, I'm totally envisioning like this Harry Potter-esque tunnel to Wonderland because the Bay is just so, city, and I just see you like opening this door into Wonderland for some reason.
Yeah, I wish it was like that, man.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not, but that's when you told me about it. That was for some reason what I got stuck in my head was, like this really cool, you just open this door and you go into this new place.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the spot in San Francisco where everyone gets their drinking water. So
whoa.
that's why the public's not really allowed in there.
Well, that's all you need is one, deadhead in there with the wrong vials on him, and
yeah, exactly. I like it because it's kind of like pristine California.
Yeah,
sometimes you don't really get to see that on other hikes and things, but
right.
Yeah, I'm a little spoiled on that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And are you study snakes specifically? Is that?
Yeah. So I'm a snake biologist.
That's so cool. I just think that's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when I tell people like, yeah, I'm a snake biologist during the day, and then I am a music producer and DJ at night. They're like, yeah. What kind of a combo is that?
I think it's a great combo. I mean, I really do, especially because, and I just recorded. Do you know who Lawrence Krauss is? You know who he is?
I've heard the name, yeah.
He's a particle physicist. But I just recorded a podcast with him last night, and dude, I've been on a podcast frenzy, so I've recorded shitloads last week. It wasn't with him; it was with the different guy, Steven Novella, who's a neuroscientist. But I told him, oftentimes in the music scene, you get a lot of mystical type characters, or like super conspiracy. It's like one or the other, you get those.
Oh,
and so like being a biologist in the day, that means obviously you have to understand like evolution and you have to understand science because it's crucial to your day job. So I bet that when you hear some of the conversations at festivals, you're like, whoa, you think that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to like kind of shut that brain off.
Really?
Just so that it's not like you're not like a downer around people being like, you're totally wrong right now. You're not gonna just like,
That's really nice of you.
Yeah, you don't want to harsh their buzz, man.
I'm the total opposite.
Yeah,
But it gets me in trouble. But
I try to kind of keep to myself at a festival. I'm not gonna just be like, nope, you're an idiot.
no, I know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that's really cool though. I have taken some biology classes in the last couple of years, and I've taken behavioral biology from this guy named Robert Sapolsky, who teaches in I think he's at Stanford, so that's kind of in your hood.
Yep.
But I took a biology class from him, and ever since I started taking them, it's just like, I'm sure that the classes that you've taken are a lot more extensive than the ones that I have, but holy shit, it's so cool, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why when when we've talked about it, it's just interested me so much, because biology is like the coolest, understanding evolution and biology and the both of them together, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, like in an alternate universe, that was your career path.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel I feel this is why technology is really cool though, because I have taken shitloads of these classes and they've all been free through different websites and stuff. And I still have homework and stuff like that, but I don't get a degree, but I can fulfill all my nerdy needs, like learn about I've taken tons of different like evolutionary biology and behavioral biology, and just all these different biology classes, but then also like physics classes, and it really, like, I love all of it.
Yeah.
Equally.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can get pretty much a college level education for free.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You just have to read the books. Like, it's not that. It's just like school has someone forcing you to do it in a way.
Yeah.
But
what made you want to get into that?
I think it was like, as a kid, I would go on a bunch of hikes around the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I would like drag my mom to go with me. I remember when I was 10, I would tell her, Mom, we're going hiking and I'm looking for snakes. And she's like, okay.
So you've always been interested in the snake part of it?
Yeah.
Really? That's
yeah. I mean, some of the other biologists I work with are like, you can tell they're like, oh, he definitely only cares about snakes, like, compared to other animals. Like, I mean, like, sometimes I'll have to do a job where some birds are involved, and I'm just not as enthusiastic. I think it's got to be something, that happened as a kid. But I would drag my mom on these hikes, and she's like, whatever, you can do it. It's good to have a kid that's getting outside, not playing video games, sure. So I think that just like eventually snowballed into, how can I get paid to do this?
So you're kind of a part of the flat earth conspiracy in a way, because you understand biology, and people that understand biology know that secretly know that the earth is only 6,000 years old and it's flat. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I kind of figured you looked like the Illuminati type.
100%, man. Sometimes it's hard for me to like bite my tongue on, spilling the beans about
all these. Yeah. I find it to be so interesting that first of all, like, I find it to be interesting that people don't think evolution's real.
No, I mean, there's a huge movement now that, all scientists are like either bogus, paid off, and all this like bullshit. And it's like, no, we try to be objective reporters of what's going on.
Well, no shit. I mean, that's like literally, like, science is just a process. That's all science is.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing about, I listen to a lot of debates and stuff, which is probably why I'm so crazy. But I like to listen to debates on both sides, because I want to hear both sides. I don't just want to hear one side. But man, it's like when you really get into like the offshoot theories and religions and all this stuff, and they think that all of like oh, you're into Zionism, and they'll like say these weird terms that like make science sound like a religion, oh, well, scientists think this, and it's like, no, they just that's just either what it is or it's a model, and they're willing to change it at any point in time, and that I have a coworker who's a flat earther, and he's I feel so silly saying this because I talk about it all the time, but he's a flat earther, and he's a flat earther because he's a fundamentalist Christian.
Yes.
So everything that he thinks, like he thinks everything is because of the Bible, but then anything science related, he's like, oh, you're just gonna take that? What, did you just read that out of a book? How do you know the book's real? And I'm like, dude, you take it out of a Bible. That's a book. How do you know that's real? Well, that's the word of God. How do you know? Because the Bible says so. And it's like this really weird.
Yeah, it's like a debate that's never gonna end.
Yeah.
Like, I was on a job site where one of the guys, he told me that scientists put dinosaur bones in the ground.
Yes, this is something that this kid believes too.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, are you like, this was like totally at random? He's like, oh, there's a biologist, and like, let me bring this conversation point up to him. Right. And I was just like, are we really going to talk about this? Like, I have to hang out with you all day today. Like, this is not going to work.
I know it's really bizarre, because, and the same thing kind of like with this kid that works with me. And it's really funny because I had one of my best friends working with us, and I've known him since I was like 6 years old, and he worked for us. And then he just recently quit because he wanted to go work for his family. And so I was super bummed about it. And he said to me, wouldn't it be hilarious if you got a flat earther Christian to work for you? And then it ended up coming true. And it's just this really weird, but yeah, so this kid kind of brought it up to me a few times, trying, it started out with like a different, like maybe 9/11, like a different conspiracy or something. And Bruno's trying to get out. It started with a different conspiracy, and he starts saying, well, like, do you just believe that? And I was like, well, I think the evidence shows that it, but I can't say one way or another. And then all of a sudden I was like, where is this going? And he starts talking about CERN and how CERN's like a satanic worshiping site. And you know what CERN is, right? It's a particle acceleration lab. So it's like where they smash, subatomic particles together. And so he's saying it, and I'm like, where did you hear this? He's like, oh, I read it. And it's like really funny because the only way that the web would have ever come into existence is if CERN was there, because CERN developed the web so that physicists could communicate with each other about mathematical problems easier. And like, that's literally how the web came into existence. So this kid is reading about how CERN is a conspiracy on the thing that CERN created,
Sometimes the irony is just laughable.
It is hilarious. And then it's so funny. So then he starts talking about the flat earth theory, and I'm asking him all these questions, like, what about seasons? What about, just basic rational stuff. Like, what about the moon? What about asteroids? If there's a dome over the earth, how come there's like meteorites every single day? And, and he said to me, oh, well, maybe NASA's throwing rocks out of the planes. And he says, he keeps on going on about NASA. And I'm like, dude, you do realize that there's like tons of multinational corporations that use space. It's not just NASA, right? I mean, you can't just fight the one organization when there's, all these, there's private companies. Every country has a space program. But
yeah, they must really love Elon Musk too.
Oh my gosh, he thinks that Elon Musk is, he thinks the weird rationality of all this is that, like, I asked him, what's the point? If the earth is flat, why would they lie to us? Like, what's the whole point of this big lie, Yeah. And he says to me, well, I think, okay, I've thought about this a lot. I think that, and he says, basically, he thinks that if we think that the earth is a globe and we think that there's planets outside of the earth, then we'll have reason to not take care of the earth and just trash it because we can go to another planet. And I said, well, okay, why then does Elon Musk invent electric cars and solar power plants and doing all this stuff that's totally to try to save the planet? And that's literally what he says his mission is for it. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's just one example. I mean, NASA's the one that's saying there's climate change, Yeah. The the fundamentalist ones are the ones that saying climate change is a hoax. Your people, well, climate change is a hoax. And I'm like, but if climate change is a hoax and we're doing all these things to take care of the planet for climate change, then don't you think that that means that the people that aren't fundamentalists are the ones that are wanting to save the planet? Like, it's just this weird backwards circular logic that doesn't, so anyways, I don't know how we got off in the weeds on this, but you as a scientist are clearly in on it, and I feel honored to know someone that's one of the ringleaders.
Yes, I mean, it's tough being a scientist in a day like today, honestly.
I'm sure it is. It's really weird, and
well, so I think like half the country doesn't even like believe anything that we write.
I know.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, I guess we are fake news.
Right.
So we just got to like keep chugging along.
Yeah. So do you think that, like, what do you think is causing this distrust in science from a majority?
I think there's just kind of like a big movement of trying to discredit sources in a way.
Okay.
Like, I guess there's always kind of been that against any sort of scientist, but it just seems like it's like amplified lately, where, if you can attack someone's credibility, then people shouldn't be able to believe them and what they say or publish or whatever. So I think that, people that are running with these crazy beliefs or theories, they just essentially end up trying to discredit scientists by making something up. And then, yeah.
So do you think that, I mean, kind of what I've thought about with this is just that, throughout most of the human history, we've had to really struggle to survive. Like, life has been kind of a struggle. And now there isn't really a struggle. So we try to create a struggle in a way because we need to release those physical, like we have physical needs to fight to live almost. It's like we need adrenaline, we need these things. So people get these like outrages and and also there's, because what science tend to do is answer questions that lead to bigger questions. So it's like, if, for example, like science now knows, I don't know, say that science figures out that there's, instead of just a solar system, there's all these galaxies. Well, now it's like, holy shit, there's even more to understand than less. And when you're able to just discredit science, you're able to say, okay, that's all a lie. God is the truth. They're clearly lying to us. I have the answer. And so you don't have to think about the big questions. Do you think that could be what it is, or what do you think? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, studying evolution just discredits a good number of religions.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an expert on religion, but
right.
I think so. If like anything remotely challenges massive number of people's beliefs, they're going to try to find a way to like undermine it.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I think a poll said like 60% of Americans don't think evolution is true.
Yeah. That's mind-boggling.
That is when I like posted something on Facebook about evolution, and it wasn't even saying evolution's right, religion isn't, or anything like that. And somebody said, well, I don't think evolution's real, and on the post. And I was like, how can you not? I mean, you have a kid, they have a different color eyes. That's like a small part of evolution, I mean, you can see it.
Yeah, make sure not to tag me in that, because I don't want to see it.
I know, it probably cripples you.
Yeah, no, it'll just like, if I take the bait, then I'll just get into a long argument and my days, my productivity's done for.
Really? Does that ever happen?
I'm exaggerating. I don't get into internet wars.
Yeah, I used to, but I don't anymore. I mean, I even on that post in particular, I said, look, I'm not posting this to try to challenge beliefs. I'm just posting this because I thought it was interesting. It's like, for me, it doesn't, a lot of people are like, why do you care? And I do care that what people's beliefs are to a certain extent, because I think that religion tends to make people okay with doing awful things. Like for example, in Islam, removing the woman's clitoris is common. So it's like that kind of mutilation that is disgusting. And to the same effect, I mean, that happens with male genitalia in the United States, and that's all a religion thing. So it's like this. I think that it's important that we talk about these things and not get emotionally distraught about it, and saying like this whole thing where religion's off the table and we can't talk about it is the reason why 60% of people think evolution shouldn't be taught in school, you know?
I guess it's just like, I don't have time to explain why evolution
right.
could be real, like, to people. It's like, if you try to undertake that as your duty in life, like, good God.
Right.
You know, I might as well go knocking door to door and like
become a scientismist or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like Jehovah's Witness. And like dress up in some goofy outfit too.
Right. Like a lab coat.
Have you heard about the wonders of science?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, so I think it's been about an hour. You want to wrap this thing up?
Sure, yeah.
Why don't you tell people where they can find you and your SoundCloud and all that good stuff?
So let's see. SoundCloud is soundcloud.com/elevated and then the minus sign mind. So you can find my music there. You could also probably just Google Elevated Mind and it'll pop up.
Okay.
And then my Facebook is Elevated Mind Beats. Facebook/Elevated Mind Beats.
Yeah.
And let's see. I don't really use like Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. So
okay.
The best way to reach out to me is on Facebook or SoundCloud. I check those every day.
Awesome.
crazy.
Saw greasy-looking Canadians in parking lot on drugs. Sometimes life is greasy, Bubbles.
Problematic when I hit automatic. Niggas back to the past. All up on my nuts, shit be swinging like a fist. Can't even take a piss. If I did, niggas would cut they wrists. And a motherfucking candy folk, eat that ass with the switch and blast on the bitch who was all in my shit. If that nigga ran back for the 9-5, they said real niggas was dead, but this nigga be alive, so I'm putting it down with that nigga E for all of my niggas and the CPT. So here we go again with part 3 of the script, making bitch made niggas bite their lip when we dip. So tell me how the fuck do it feel to get hit with the motherfucking real? The motherfucking real.
Going out to the hardcore hip hop.
The motherfucking real.
Fucking these niggas till they drop.
The motherfucking real.
Going out to the hardcore hip hop.
The motherfucking real. Fucking these niggas till they drop. motherfucking night. It's alright, niggas. It's too hard, motherfuckers on the street. It's the nigga MC Red and the nigga Easy.
Does it? You wish the fuck that you could do it at a 9mm. Don't make me have to shoot it. Who gives a fuck about the police? Cause I'm the main motherfuckers that make the peace. Now let me know, how the fuck do you feel? Getting hit with the motherfucking real. The motherfucking real.
Going out to the hardcore hip-hop.
The motherfucking real. Fucking these niggas till they drop. The motherfucking real.
Yo, thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and be sure to subscribe to us, Facebook, Twitter, all that, and check back next week for a new episode. All right, be sure to follow Will Bauer, aka Elevated Mind, on all the platforms. Peace.